And welcome to another edition of South Texas Crossfire. This is Attorney Joe Flores reminding you to join us each and every week right here on KTMV with the Lopez family. Special thanks to Don Humberto Lozano Lopez. He passed away in 2011, but we honor and venerate him on every show. And thank him and my good friend, you guessed it, Carlos Lopez, the Ted Turner of South Texas Broadcasting. I have a great opportunity to bring on a candidate that is running for a judicial seat and over 20 counties. And we're going to be talking to her about the justice system today. And we're going to give a great welcome to the candidate for the Court of Appeals, Nora Longoria. Welcome. How are you?
Very good, Joe. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Well, I had thought about bringing you on, and especially in the higher courts, because we're going to talk about that, the basics today for educate people. We have the justice courts and the county courts at law and the district courts, but the most important decisions, I think, that are rendered by the courts sometimes are at the higher courts, the Court of Appeals, the Supreme Court. So I want to welcome you on. But first of all, before that, let's introduce you to our public out there, our viewers here at Time Warner, 100,000 strong viewers there, 2.3 per household. Tell us a little bit about your education, training, and background, and where you grew up.
Of course. Joe, I am from the Rio Grande Valley. I grew up in Edinburgh. My parents, my dad is a cattle rancher and a dry land farmer. My mom is a retired school teacher. I have one sibling. She works for the Hidalgo County WIC department. She's the director of the WIC department, has been doing that, helping families out in that regard for over 30 years. I can't tell you how old she is because she'd probably kill me. But I am from the Valley, and I decided early on in my career, early on in my life, that I wanted to be a lawyer. Probably when I was about 10. The little school I went to was about 2 blocks from the courthouse. And at recess, I would sneak away and go over to the courthouse.
No.
Yes, to see if I could see a real lawyer in action. And so I had the notion at an early age that that's what I wanted to do. And my parents always pushed education. In our community, we always pushed education for everyone. And so I was given the opportunity to go to Texas A&M undergrad, which...
Right.
And my dreams were to go to Texas A&M and to the University of Texas. I mean, being a fifth-generation Texan and having such deep roots in Texas, to me as a young lady, that's what I wanted to do. And thank the good Lord, I was able to go to A&M. I received my undergrad degree there in political science. And my greatest wish was to go to the University of Texas Law School. I didn't know if I was going to be able to go or not. And it happened that I was able to, and received a wonderful legal education with such wonderful professors like Bill Powers, who is now, the president of the entire university, Lino Graglia, who is a fabulous professor.
Very well known.
Yes, and just some wonderful, wonderful professors. The list goes on, and received that legal education. As soon as I got done, I went back home. Which is unusual for people. They usually don't go back to the Valley for whatever reason, but my family was there, my mother, my dad, my sister, and nothing was going to keep me away from them, and I don't regret it at all. Since then, my first job, I worked for a law firm by the name of Kelly, Looney, Alexander, and Sawyer, and one of the big name partners there was a gentleman by the name of Rogers Kelly, who was a senator, a big activist for the Valley, and was of the ranks of Bob Bullock, LBJ, all those wonderful progressive people who helped Texas. So I was so excited to go work for the oldest firm at the Valley at the time. That was my first job, and in that area was commercial law. That's what I did, but in my heart I kind of wanted to be a trial lawyer, and so I moved to a couple other firms, worked and did some litigation, ended up with the law firm of Thornton & Summers, which was a big insurance defense firm.
Oh, yes, it's a great firm.
Yes, and they, at that time, it was, I graduated like early, 1990 actually, and it was unusual for a firm to allow a Hispanic woman to run with a trial docket on her own. I wanted to be first chair. I didn't want to be second chair. I wanted to be able to have my own docket, and they let me do it, and I will forever be appreciative to them. Worked for them for quite some time. Was able to try cases up and down South Texas and learn a little bit about everything. Not, you know, I spent a lot of time with my nose in a law book, but also a lot of time practicing and learning the problems of the people that I represented. After about 10 years of practice, I wanted to change my tact and really have more of a practice where I could help people in different ways from every walks of life. And I have done that. And I think that over the years it has brought a collective wisdom to me that makes me feel that I should be the next appellate justice for the 13th Court of Appeals, Place 2.
Well, well said. You know, it sounds like sort of an eclectic background, if you will, a balanced background.
Yes.
Many people, and I've always underlined on this show, that there are the ultra-right, I mean the extremists who have tried to deny people their day in court, who've tried to limit in tort reform. At the same time, there were some incidences in some counties where they used to say that there was jackpot or you know, you hit the lotto in some counties, and that's sort of balanced out. In my opinion, and this doesn't reflect the station, but I would say that they have tort reformed us to death, where it's already even gone to the right a little bit. And I know that when you sit up there, I've interviewed Justice Wainwright, I've interviewed other Court of Appeals judges, I've interviewed criminal Court of Appeals judges, and one thing that sticks in my mind is that the fear that people are going to be too ultra-right. The court that you're on, let's start out with this premise, and let me ask you this. The court that you're on, what would it do? The 13th Court of Appeals, for the average voter out there that's saying, I don't know what she's running for, I like her, sounds good, what's she running for?
And basically, the Court of Appeals reviews all cases from the 20 counties that are appealed, civil and criminal, for different reasons, except for death penalty cases. Those, of course, do not come before this court. Every other type of case, criminal and civil, does come before the court. And the job of the appellate court is to review the record, the evidence, the transcripts, and to apply the law to that. You know, I'm not a politician. This is the first time I've ever run for office. And I think that is important for people to know, because our judiciary should not be political. Unfortunately, under Texas, we have to run, you know, with our party.
Right.
But I believe that every judge, you know, they take an oath, and when we get there, we follow the law and we apply the law evenly to everyone. Everybody has their due day in court, and there are no politics in the courtroom, because that has nothing to do with fair and unbiased justice. As far as you were talking about, like tort reform and things of that nature, those are legislative matters, and you know, there's been a lot written about activist judges and judges that legislate from the bench.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And that's something that no good judge should ever do, and that's something that we take an oath not to do.
And when you bring that up, special interest groups have tried in the past. Now, all fairness to my friends on the right, and I do have a lot of friends on the right as well as on the left and in between, they argue, look, for a long time, please don't start crying about tort reform. They tell all the trial lawyers and everyone else that, you know, unions and things. They said for a long time you had your banner days, half a century in South Texas and the Rio Grande Valley, where there was very lenient as far as looking at upholding judgments and things like that. And now we have it turned the other way. So your philosophy, since you've done both advocacy for major companies and also for the downtrodden and those that need a voice, you've done both. So when you sit up there, are you saying that you are not going to let politics play a role in how you sit up there and how you judge?
Absolutely, Joe. I can promise the people, the 20 counties, that is my intention. Politics do not have anything to do with it. And my experience and my background has been in both areas. I've done defense work, I've done plaintiff's work, and in my opinion, the legislature has put into place a set of laws with regard to tort reform that have alleviated the problems that people believe existed at one point in time. Our job is to follow the law, and it is not for a judge to have a platitude or a campaign based on a mantra, you know, lawsuit abuse stops at my bench, because that is not a judge's position. A judge's position is to look at the case and enforce the law, look at the facts, and do the appropriate thing. And that is what is at the heart of the entire judicial system. I mean, people, I think, underestimate how important the judiciary is. And all we need is balance. Everybody deserves a fair shake. And there have been extremes before, and I think we're seeing another extreme now. Not with regard to this court, but, you know, we have a Texas Supreme Court that, you know, it is a completely Republican court. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think that balance in any court made up of several judges is good. It's good to have Democrats and Republicans on there because it's balance, and balance needs to be applied to the law. So I stand for the proposition that everybody is entitled to their fair day in court. And sometimes looking at the record and looking at the evidence, you know, you get to do what you might feel as a justice is something that's a great thing. And sometimes when you're following the law and looking at the evidence, you can't do the thing that you would like to do because you simply don't have the mechanism to do it. I mean, in the instance, for example, of an untimely appeal, maybe somebody had a great appeal, you know, and they just didn't do it on time. Well, you can't grant them relief if it's not timely. You know, that's just a general example.
The law is the law.
The law is the law, and we have to follow it. And going through the 20 counties, everybody, you know, and I'm new at this, so I went to go talk to all kinds of folks.
I'm sure it was a trip.
Yeah, it was wonderful, and it was exciting. And they want to ask you all these questions, and I want to answer so bad. But as you know, the judicial canons of ethics don't allow you to talk about how you would rule on anything that comes before your court. So
exactly.
You can generally say things like, I can say, I support, you know, the Constitution of the United States, of course, and all its amendments, you know, and that includes, you know, the real controversial ones, the right to bear arms and the right to jury trial and all the others, of course. But, you know, those are controversial things. I think that people have been trained through political brainwashing to be afraid of a person's right to a jury trial. I mean, what is more sacred to us than the jury system? You know, the Americans are the only ones that have a jury system, and it is a fine system, and that has nothing to do with lawsuit abuse. The day that anybody tries to tell somebody that lawsuit abuse has something to do with your right to a trial, that's not a good day. We need to straighten that out. We need people to know your right to a jury trial is you know, it's a great right, and it has nothing to do with lawsuit abuse.
Well, I appreciate that point of view, and when we come back, we're going to be talking more with the candidate for the 13th Court of Appeals, Place 2, Nora Longoria, and we're going to be talking about the criminal justice system, we're going to be talking about the civil justice system, and we are also going to be talking about her campaign when we come back.
Nora Longoria is a seventh-generation Texan and shares our values. She was born here, raised here, educated here, and practiced law here. And now she wants to represent us as our justice on the 13th Court of Appeals, Place 2.
Have you been arrested or are potentially facing criminal charges? You need a trial attorney who is well-versed in the courtroom. Joe Flores has handled hundreds of criminal cases and many of them to trial. Joe Flores can provide you with competent representation to protect your constitutional rights in state and federal court. Joe Flores can help if you have been arrested or facing criminal charges. The law offices of Joe Flores. Equal justice for all.
Each year, millions of dollars are lost to healthcare fraud. The elderly and the poor are the most vulnerable. Every day, unscrupulous healthcare providers are submitting false claims to the government's Medicaid and Medicare programs. The state and federal government are offering rewards for information leading to the successful prosecution of these cases. For more information, contact the law offices of Joe Flores. With his experience in the medical profession and as a trial lawyer, Joe Flores can provide you more information on how to fight healthcare fraud. Law offices of Joe Flores. Equal justice for all.
Call River City Hospice for your loved one's care today. River City Hospice is a compassionate, patient-centered healthcare provider with a unique approach to medical care and support for people at the end of life and their families. River City Hospice focuses on maintaining dignity, increasing quality of life, and providing comfort and reducing pain due to illness. Hospice care allows your loved one to be treated with dignity and respect and gives them the right to choose. Call 882-5900 today. Hope, dignity, and love. It's got to be River City Hospice.
Nora Longoria worked hard in grade school at Texas A&M, then UT Law, and for over 21 years as an attorney. And Nora will work hard as our next justice on the 13th Court of Appeals, Place 2.
I think it's a betrayal of public trust. That is just not ethical.
I left the Democratic Party because of her.
The reason is because you're taking Republican money.
The money of those people that pay me as a consultant. What are you taking? Why did you take it Crosstown? Took money. I saw it and I saw them pay you checks.
Okay, hold on. Everybody